Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am super excited about today's guest. And I'm super excited to have you on the segment of Raining and Ruling. Now, I have Tracy with me, y'all. Tracy is so amazing. She is so amazing. And y'all know I say this about every guest, but I truly mean it because I don't lie about the people that I bring to the Royal Court of King's Kid. I'm going to introduce Tracy, and then we're going to get started with these questions so she can start dropping jewels of knowledge and wisdom. Tracy is a mompreneur and brand identity coach on a mission to help leaders who are invested in creating authentic human experiences. Authentic human experiences. Create a culture that represents their personal brand. With 15 years of experience in corporate marketing as an employee and leader, she has consistently witnessed the inability of corporations to even recognize the existence of personal brands. And I see why I called her to be here. So now she's helping leaders bring their authentic brand voices into their leadership strategies to create corporate cultures with the human experience at the core. Y'all, that's important. That's why I invited her here. Tracy, I'm so excited to have you.
Oh, I'm so excited for the invitation. Thank you so much, Tiandra.
So, with your years of experience, we read your bio. How did you get started on from an employee to a leader to now you're kind of penetrating the corporate environment in a different way? What started your journey on helping others develop a brand that speaks?
So for me, it was because I ended up being in a space where I could not use my authentic voice in my work environment. And unfortunately, I believe that this is true for many people. If I thought it was just true for myself, I would have just quit, which is what I did, start my own business. But I went to business school. I spent years climbing the corporate ladder, and none of it taught me anything about my personal brand. But the interesting thing about that is that everybody has one.
Yeah.
And it gives you clues. And the clues that it kept giving me, I always describe it as my work was chipping away at my soul. I know it sounds terrible, right? Like nobody wants to go to work and have it chip away at their soul. But I got to the point where I had to quit. I had to quit because I couldn't make that decision anymore. I was like, I can't. I have one life. I have a family at home. And this work is slowly diminishing who I am as a person. And so for me, the answer was clear, and that I just had to quit. And I created my own environment, but it like very minimally go and find a different environment because I couldn't thrive in that one. I just was existing. And I never have believed in just existing. I believe in that we have one life. We are all here for a reason. And like, that was not my reason. Really? I actually started asking myself that question when I was 23 years old. And I was like, what am I really doing here in corporate marketing, right? Like I'm helping really big companies spend a lot of money on selling people stuff they kind of need, but not really. Right? And I was like, what is that? That's not the contribution I want to make to society. And
they may need this, but
and it's funny because I had someone I was working when the very first time I thought that I was working for a retail furniture company. And I remember having someone tell me years later that I was helping people find comfort. And I was like, sounds nice. Sounds nice when you say it that way, but I don't want to help people find comfort with a comfy sofa. I want to help people find comfort in knowing that they can be who they are, and that is fine. And it's always been, it's funny now when I look back on my past, because I've always been like that. I've always just like done me, right? Like I took art classes and I played on the basketball team and I was on student council and I was always I was on the yearbook committee for 2 years in a row because I wanted to make sure every single person got their face in the yearbook in addition to their like profile picture, right?
Yeah.
Like, because at most, like, anybody who is listening, think about your high school yearbook. It's full of the popular kids and the kids who are on the yearbook committee. And then you're like, why do I even have this stupid book? Because I'm not in it, right? And like, this was, what was then funny about that is that I didn't do the grad slideshow. And guess who didn't end up in the grad slideshow?
You didn't.
No, which made me kind of angry because I put so much effort into making sure everybody was included, and then I wasn't included. Just fun facts about Tracy. But it really was that, and it was the crux for me to really owning that this is what I'm about, and tying all of those pieces together to like, I want every single human to know that they are beautiful and perfect exactly as they are. And they don't need to be any different in any way. You don't need to have anything different about you in terms of your sexuality or in terms of your education or in terms of the color of your skin or how you like to wear your hair or like all of that is so like
that's your secret sauce.
Yes. And it's like all the good stuff is all those things combined, right? Like if I don't have near blindness and have to wear glasses, I am not fully Tracy. If I don't accept the fact I run this webinar series called Permission to Do You. And one of the ladies on it
was, y'all. It's on LinkedIn. Check it out.
It is on LinkedIn. It's on YouTube. Check it out. But I had a lady on it and she kept talking about this ukulele that she had. And I follow her on social media as well. And she kept talking about the ukulele, but she never played the ukulele. It was something she was learning, but she wasn't like showing it to people yet. And so on the live event, I challenged her to play the ukulele. I was like, if you play this ukulele, I will sing my closing remarks. And I will tell you, I'm not a terrible singer, but I'm no Mariah Carey. Let's put it that way. Right. Like it was fun, right? Like, and I love to sing, so it was authentic, and that's the point, right? Like, if I tried to be a person who didn't love to sing and didn't like, my husband laughs at me because every time he gets in the car after I was driving, the radio is so loud because, we want to sing, but we want to kind of drown out our singing, so we still hear the good stuff. But this is what being authentic is about celebrating all these like fun, quirky bits, and everybody has fun, quirky bits. And I mean, we could go into a whole conversation about how society is trying to squash out our quirky bits, but we'll see if that's where we end up going with this episode.
That part is to be continued. That's gonna be another. That means y'all gonna have to come back because that's
another episode
within itself. Yeah. So you mentioned one thing about how when you recognize that this place that you were in was chipping at your soul, you had the opportunity to just quit. What advice would you offer to someone who can't do that? Like they gotta stick here for another 2, 3, maybe 4 years.
So one, I would encourage you to look for ways to not have to, right? Like it's so easy for us to stay where we are. And it's easy for us to find reasons to stay. It's much harder to find reasons to not, to like get into our zone of discomfort. And so one of those things is to just look at it, but to like, I'm also all about being fiscally responsible, right? You need your job to pay for your food and your power, then don't just up and quit your job like I did. I also made a commitment to myself that I would make all of my money back in 3 months. So that was like, I had a financial plan to do that. Again, like there's lots of, just look for ways. If you can look for ways, then you can find ways. But in the meantime, and this also contributes to helping you look for ways, is a deep exploration of your personal values. And that sounds maybe complicated, or maybe it sounds easy to some people, but I will tell you a deep look at values is very difficult to do, especially by yourself. And so there are two easy ways that you can get started with that, though. The first one is to pay attention to things that feel really fun. And you guys, I quit my job. I didn't have enough fun things at my job, but I want to give you guys this example because for a very long time, I care about people. I want people to grow. I want people to develop. And so I remember it's so weird too. I don't even know what conversation was happening. I was in my boss's office with her, myself, and the HR representative. I have no idea. I cannot remember what we were talking about because I had this whole conversation in my head instead. And I was just sitting there thinking like, I don't want to. Like I was a vice president of marketing. I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I just want to coach people. I just want to watch people grow. And a second later, I was like, what am I talking about? I have a team of people right here that I can help do that. And why am I thinking that like I have to go somewhere else to do that? I don't. I just needed that connection moment of that's what I want to do. And now I can show up at work and focus on that. People. Right. And like that is part of your job as a manager anyway. And at the time I had an employee who was dealing with severe anxiety, right? Like I was going to go to a therapist or a life coach, right? And like, right. He's just a sales rep for me. And I wanted to like make him as productive as I could at sales. And in our time together, it was like a ridiculous transformation. And to this day, he wrote this like beautiful LinkedIn recommendation for me after both of us left the company. And it was like, I could, you know, those times when people say something about you and you can't believe that they're talking about you. And you're like,
it was one of those.
Yeah. And I was like, what do I even say? Like, I can't just say thank you. That seems so empty. It took me a very long time to respond. But this was the difference. And I had that. I had the ability to do that and I hadn't seen it. So when you can connect with those things that you really love, that bring you joy, and look for ways to do that in your work, it can make it feel so, so much more rewarding. The second piece of that is that you can look for things that specifically frustrate you. Like an example of that for me was that, okay, every Tuesday we have our management meeting. Your KPIs are supposed to be submitted in the spreadsheet by the end of the day, Monday. And I always did it every single time. Even if I had to stay late on Monday to get it done, it was always done. Our VP of operations was always doing it during the management meeting. And I was just like, my accountability value was just like, you were supposed to do this by yesterday and you do it every single time. Like, are you new here? It was so frustrating to me. But like, I think the thing that was most frustrating to me was that my CEO didn't care. And well, why are you telling us that there's a deadline for this? There's not really a deadline for this, right? Like, so that's where it was a window for me to say like, ooh, I have a definition. I will share this with you guys because at the time, what I thought I had accountability and they didn't have accountability. That is how I interpreted it. And I've actually so if you guys are interested in learning about values work, I also recommend that you follow Lindsay Harl-Kadatz on LinkedIn because she talks all about values. And she taught me about the definition and being able to understand that it's not that someone else doesn't have the same value as you, it's that they don't have the same definition. And so like, unless I know someone else's definition, I can't hold them accountable for being accountable at my level. And also I haven't shared my definition of what accountable means to me. And it just is so interesting because when we think about values, we think that we all define them as the same. And in fact, we all define them differently. There is very little similarity between how we define them. And this is one of the things that causes confusion in corporate values, right? Because even if the CEO sees it one way and you have now 40 employees or 800 employees, or my husband's organization, 170,000 employees, unless that was clear at the beginning, it is not clear at the bottom, my friends. It's just not possible. And so when you have that clarity, both in joy and in frustration, and you can see for yourself what your definition of your values are, that is your opportunity to bring those to life and to have those conversations that, quite honestly, a lot of people are open to. It's just, we don't know that we should have those conversations.
Oh, now that's good. As you were talking about the things that you enjoy doing, I thought about this book I read called The Purpose Path. And the book overall theme is aligning your life's work with your daily work. So don't wait till you get to a certain age to live your life's work. You figure out ways to incorporate that in your day-to-day task, and then you will ultimately live a fulfilled life. And when I figured that out, I was like, I'm in the right industry, but the wrong function, and it's time to go. Mm-hmm. And it took me a while to get out, but I did both of those things that you said, found out the way that I could do it in the space that I was in, and then found out the things that I hated and developed a plan to ultimately get to that stage to where now that's the thing. I feel like I'm living my life's work from the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep. I don't have to wait till Friday after 5 or to the weekend. So I'm so glad you shared those two, because I'm a testament that if you do that, it's possible. It is.
And this is where we get fulfillment, you guys, is when we get to spend our entire day living our purpose. And like I always say, when people are feeling burnt out or overwhelmed, or choose your word of preference, it's because you're not spending enough time doing the things that light you up. You're just doing things. And our society is really good at celebrating people who do things, right? Like, I've worked for organizations where, like, quite honestly, I think they care very little about what you do and more so about the amount of things you do, right? And I don't think that's unique, but that is why you get burnt out. Because if you could do one thing in a day that you hate and feel like you did not have a productive day, or you could do 100 things in your day that you love and you end the day with like all of this energy. You didn't even feel like you worked today.
Right.
Right. And this should be the goal of more CEOs and leaders as well, to give to their people, right? And like, as individual people, we have this power to find it for ourselves. But I mean, how much more productive as a group, as a team, as an organization could we be?
I agree. I definitely agree with you wholeheartedly. So with this, with us having this discussion, some people may feel like they need their own business in order to brand themselves. Like, okay, I work for this organization, that's enough branding. But I want you to really debunk that myth, because yes, you can work for an organization today and be bye-bye tomorrow. So I want you to really talk about why everybody should be branding and everyone have their unique sound, that unique voice.
I think, and this is a very important question, because a lot of people associate the word brand with a business. So if I don't have a business, I don't have a brand. And I want to even take the word need out, right? Like, you don't need a brand, you have a brand. Right? Like, you already have one. My definition of personal brand is the experience that you leave other people with when you leave the room, right? Bezos uses the same definition for corporate brands. Yeah. It's the same thing for people, right? Like, what feelings do people think? What do you think about when you think of me, right? And every single person has that. You have a natural experience that you create for people. That's your natural brand. So it's not a matter of needing one, you have one. So if we look at it from the point of you have one, now it's just, do you use what you have, or do you hide what you have? Well, I think you know where I'm going to go with that conversation. My preference is that you use what you have, because you can't. And I want you guys to think about a scenario where you felt like you had to hide your brand, because every single person has done it. Every single human, every single one. I like, seriously, if there was someone who hadn't done this at least at one point in their life, because they were afraid that someone was going to think they were stupid at school, or they thought that they weren't going to be cool enough if they didn't do this, or they thought that they couldn't get into business school, or they thought that they wouldn't get that job if they didn't dress this way, or they thought that they couldn't say something in social media because their boss would find out and they get fired, right? Like every single person has thought of it. That thought is an active thought that's hiding your brand. And when you look at, again, the opportunities to use versus hide, I want you guys to build your life around a space where you can use your personal brand as much, like all the time. I would like to say all the time, but I also don't believe in absolutes. So like, I like to focus on
as much as possible.
As much as possible. Well, at least where you have the freedom to do that, right? So like authenticity is the thing that I am trying to do every day. I look at it from two different perspectives. What percentage of today was I authentic? And what percentage of today did I create spaces for other people to be authentic? And if I can do those two things, I won today. And I will tell you guys this, on the day of this taping, before this taping, I spent 1 hour and a little bit, because we went over on our panel session I was doing, a little bit more than an hour having a conversation with people about how social pressures affect their authenticity.
Yeah.
I got a message from one of the ladies who participated in that discussion who is just like, I feel invigorated and I feel so confident in being able to step into myself and just show me. And like, maybe
that was the space that you helped create for her.
Yes. Yes. And I did that in 1 hour, in one meeting, 6 people, right? Like it doesn't have to be a lot of time. It just has to be those spaces. And I'll be honest, actually, originally when we had scheduled to record this session, and I rescheduled because I was feeling ill, and I said I want to bring my full self and my best energy to the session for you guys. And I was nervous. Because I wanted to, like, I also care about like saying I'm going to do what I said I was going to do. Right. Like my integrity. But like, I couldn't show up in my best energy. And Chedra was like, that's fine. We'll reschedule. Yeah. Right. And
I think we need to normalize that though. That goes to show how far we have gotten away from normalizing that it's okay. It's truly okay. I mean, you know, we're not doing brain surgery here. We're not, you know, going to space. It's truly okay. And I learned this from my manager at work because of the space that I work in at training and development. One thing that she says sometimes when I may feel like things are going haywire, she was like, there's no such thing as a training emergency. And I was just like, I never thought of it like that. But it helps take the pressure off, and it creates spaces for people to be whole. It creates spaces for people to, like you say, be their authentic self, because it'll be a disservice to my brand, your brand, collectively our audiences, if we don't bring our whole selves. And
let's just quickly use the example of the brain surgeon, right? The brain surgeon is sick today. You want him to do brain surgery on you? Like, no, I don't. Do I want my brain surgery? Sure I do. And I want somebody who's skilled in brain surgery to do it. But if you are sick and your hands are wobbly and like you're sneezing, like, no, you're not going to do it either. Right. And it's funny that you mentioned your manager. I had a manager when I was in marketing. We were doing direct mail, right? And like all of the clients would be like, oh my God, my mail went out 15 minutes late. No one cares. They're going to get it tomorrow anyway. And he used to always tell us, we're not saving babies. Like, we're not saving babies. If someone's postcard goes out day late, it doesn't matter, right? And I always thought that example was funny too, because my mom was actually a neonatal nurse. So her job was to save babies. Yeah. But like my job was not to save babies. Right? It's somebody's job to save babies, but it's not mine.
Yeah.
And we often, we live in a society of urgency, right? Like, we got to do this now. This is so important. We got to do it now. And I mean, I've actually, for the past little while, been trying to peel away the whole concept of urgency and being like, so I've gotten to the point where if somebody is bleeding, it's urgent. If someone's not bleeding, it's not urgent. Like everything else in my life is not urgent. Unless there's blood, it's not urgent.
We're pretty good.
Right. Or I mean, like a substantial medical emergency that
Right.
is urgent. And other than that, it's not urgent. It's not urgent that I do the laundry. It's not urgent that I do the dishes. It's not urgent that I return this email. It's not urgent. And it might be important, but if it's important enough to somebody, they'll wait for it to be done right.
Correct way.
Yes.
The correct way. So
yes, and that makes our personal brand feel good. It honored our personal brand because we did it the way we wanted to, and it matches our expectation, matches whoever received it expectation as well.
So you're happy on both ends.
Yes.
And then you've created that happy place for yourself, but you've also given that space for others as well. So that means when you go to bed at night, you're happy because you've done your two missions that you set out to do each and every day, which is what we should do every day.
Yes.
So a lot of times, I know earlier you mentioned you have a brand that you can use, or sometimes you hide it. What are the benefits of having a brand that speaks? And then what are the ramifications of having a brand that doesn't speak?
Oh, the benefits of having a brand that speaks are just, there's so many. And you guys have probably figured this out about me, as like I talked for a very long time on this subject. So we'll try and keep it precise. I don't know. I'm gonna keep it short. Keep it short and to the point. Okay, that's what I was trying to say. So when you embrace your personal brand, you feel like you're making the difference you want to make. And you don't feel censored. So I think one of the biggest beauties about owning your personal brand is that no one censors you. You get to the point where like, I'm the only one who can possibly censor me. And I will say what is important for me to say. Now, I always frame that with like, I believe in that the people who listen to sessions like this are people who speak with kindness and compassion, and that we are here to share a message and help people. And so like, obviously there's lots of nonsense that people say that is just divisive. And so I'm not talking about those types of things, but when there's something on your heart, I will use this example because I don't want to get overly political, but there's a lady who I follow on Facebook, and she was like, oh, change makers. And I identify as a change maker. So I'm like, oh, okay, follow her. And she wrote this post about how all cultures are oppressive to some degree, and we need to just get over it and love each other. And originally I was like, I'm not sure I can be politically correct in this arena, so I'm just going to scroll past it. Right. And I did. I scrolled past it. And I had to go back to it because I just don't believe that that's the narrative that's going to help us. Yes, I believe in love. I believe in love is the answer. We can agree on that. Right. And I don't believe by pretending that all cultures have the same level of oppression against them I just don't believe that's true. Right? Like, and for us to continue to propagate that, I believe to be wrong. And so like, I couldn't just let it go. And like, now she's blocked on my Facebook page, and like, it's fine. And she was like, no, you're making this racist, and this wasn't about race, and you made it racist, and I'm not a racist, you're a racist. And I'm like, I believe in having conversations about things that I believe to be a problem. And so if you want to have a conversation about this, I would like to have a conversation about this. But if you just want to name call me and like not address the actual problem that I was trying to address, Right. And I actually said I'm going to respectfully withdraw from this conversation. But I still believe that there were people who were going to see that comment that felt that they were better represented than other things that were on that post. And so I felt very good about it. I did not feel like it was outside of my personal brand, or that I shouldn't have done it because this person now went crazy on me. Right. I knew inside that that was something I needed to say. I said it, I let it go, and I'm fine. And she might still be fuming about it. Who knows? But that's the power in knowing that your voice has value and that you can use it for good, and that it's worth it. It's worth it to take that chance to do it. And on the flip side, if I had scrolled, I'm not a big one for regret, right? Like, I don't believe in regret. It's the number one thing that the dying people say, right? I wish I had just been more myself, right? Like, right. It's just like, I don't believe it. I don't believe in getting to the end of my life and regretting something. And if I would have scrolled past that, I would have thought about it. I'm like, what if I would have stood up for what I believe in? Right. And so I don't believe in not standing up for what you believe in. And unless you have that confidence in your personal brand to know that if someone says something mean or you get a troll, like, the internet is the worst for these things, right? Like, people can't see you. They forget that there's real humans that have feelings. And this is why I talk about the human experience, right? Like, we're all having a human experience. We know what it's like to be a human. We know what it's like to feel judged. We know what it's like to feel hate, right? Like, I don't want to propagate that on anybody. And I want to create spaces for more people to spread love and compassion and kindness. And that's on the inside. All of this stuff that gets piled up on top of us by society and what we should be is not good stuff. The good stuff is underneath. And so when we don't allow ourselves to share those voices, the world is too silent. It's too silent, and the voices that need to be heard aren't represented. And it's just not what I believe in. Actually, I will tell you this made me very, very mad. I shared a post the other day, and a lady who I'm not connected to at all commented on it and said I should stop trying to be an expert in things I'm not. To be fair, I asked a question because I was curious. I'm not trying to be an expert. I have a question. I asked it and actually a lot of people provided me feedback that was very, very helpful to me. But she told me I need to stop trying to be an expert in things I don't know and just hush. And I was like, ooh, you don't know anything about me, because I have no problem with you disagreeing with me, right? I legitimately, I'm the least offended person you're ever going to meet. You want to disagree with me? That's your perspective. I may not agree with your perspective. I agree with your ability to have a different perspective. I accept that we can have two different perspectives and live in peace. But I don't believe in just hush. I don't. This has been the biggest problem for underrepresented people in society for all of history. All of history. And I can't get behind it. Then she got a whole post written about her, because not her in particular, but the just us, because I don't believe in that. I don't believe voices should be silenced. I don't believe any voice should be silenced. And if we're going to give a microphone to people who want to talk about hate, then every single one of us wants to talk about love, better talk about it, because otherwise we can't compete with those people with the microphone. And sorry, now I'm on a soapbox and I am very passionate about this, but I would love for all of you guys to take away from this session that you have a voice and your voice deserves to be heard. Ooh. And if you don't believe that, I believe that.
I believe it. Yes. Yes. Oh, that was good. All that was good. I'm gonna go back on your LinkedIn post and try to figure out which one. And I'm just letting you know what I'm gonna do. Yeah. So I want to talk about practical steps that people can do in order to get help in their careers or their lives to start using their voice. You know, we've been dealing with Corona for a while now, and Corona took a lot. Corona took finances, it took family members, it took careers, a lot of things that we may have attached our identity to. Corona could have potentially taken that or shifted that. So for somebody that's just trying to find their voice, what are some steps that they could take? I think after hearing your voice, you will allow people to be free to start using theirs. But what are some additional steps you could give someone to just start taking?
So it's going to seem simple, and Nike already coined the phrase, you got to just do it. and it's hard. It's hard to do because we don't have a habit or a practice of just showing up and using our voice. I'll be honest with you guys, and you guys might be like, oh my gosh, like she has so much practice, right? Like this is just what she does. This is what she is all about. A year and a half ago, I still worked in corporate. I worked in corporate marketing, which meant I couldn't say anything I cared about. I was the voice of the brand. I was the voice of the brand, regardless of whether or not I agreed with what the brand was saying. It was one of the contributing factors to me leaving that industry. This is not, it's not a thing that has to take a long time, but you do have to get started. And so when you believe something, the next time that I'll give you guys this challenge, exactly the challenge that I had, right? See a post, you think something about it, and you scroll past it. I want you to go back. I want you to go back and write what you have to say. And again, I believe all of you guys are coming at this from kindness, compassion, understanding, learning, conversation. Right. Not just going back and like name calling somebody something because you're frustrated, right? Like, and I respond in frustration all of the time. All the time. This is like, quite honestly, 50% of my content strategy is me being annoyed with what other people think personal branding is. And so it's a crux for me, but I get frustrated because again, there's now an industry associated with personal branding. People trying to sell you a personal brand. I don't need to sell you a personal brand. I don't actually have any. I only have one personal brand. It's mine. And I don't want to sell that to you because I want mine. And you shouldn't be me. I say this all the time to my clients because a lot of people, and they see sessions like this and you watch people like Tiedra and you're like, oh, they're so comfortable in front of the camera. I just need to be more like them, right? No. Be yourself. No.
Be yourself.
Because I will beat you every time at trying to be me. I will always win. Tiedra will always beat you every time at trying to be Tiedra. There's no point. The effort is futile, right? Like, just don't spend that time being yourself because that's how you stand out. Nobody can have your voice. Nobody can think your thoughts. Nobody can be you. So the only path to being truly unique, and especially for any of the entrepreneurs who might be listening, if you're trying to have your business stand out, you have to be unique. You have to embrace all of those unique parts about you. And so, like, taking it back to the just do it, when you feel it on your heart, don't let that pass you by. Come back and say it. I've had people who do this with their family members, and like, it's a lot super awkward.
Yeah, family is
the most awkward with family, for sure.
Yeah.
But also really great space. So I have a very good friend who has a cousin, and they just like don't see eye to eye on anything really. And she finally said, like, I can't be around this, right? Like, I can't pretend anymore that this is okay, because this is not okay to me. And it's same reason why I blocked that person on Facebook, right? Like, I don't want my feed full of stuff like that, right? Like, I try really actively to curate my network. And this is what this exercise is find the people who believe what you believe and hang out with them. There are probably a lot of the speakers and a lot of other people who are watching these types of sessions, right? Or like follow Tiedra or follow me on LinkedIn. You'll find more of those people. But this is the thing, surround yourself with people who believe what you believe. And those beliefs, that's your personal brand. Your personal values are at the core of your personal brand. And so when you allow those to show, you can find the people who also believe that. And then you also empower them to show up as their self because they see you and they're like, wow, this person is like exactly like me. And they're awkward and kind of snarky and just drop an F-bomb sometimes. And like, I really resonate with that.
Yeah.
Like, they're like me because that's what real humans are like,
Yeah.
right? All of those things. This is the human experience. This is what it's about to be a human. We are not meant to be robots. And society will continually try and fit us into a box because how am I supposed to identify people if every single human is different? I need to have genders and I need to have sexual preferences and I need to have races and I need to have education levels and I need to have household income levels and I need to be able to segment all the people into groups. And like, who? For what purpose? Right? Like, maybe the Bureau of Statistics wants to do that, but it doesn't add any value to the human experience. So we don't have to get sucked in by that narrative. And the more confidence, the more ownership you have of your personal brand, the less influenced you are by those other narratives.
I used to say, when I went through a career transition, I used to say, like, you're the CEO of your career. But for this segment, I would promote that you're the CEO of your own personal brand. Like, you own your brand and you're the storyteller. You are the chief storyteller. That's the beautiful thing about your voice because it's important that you control the narrative and to control the narrative in a responsible way. As Tracy said, lead with compassion and kindness, but allow people to experience the real you. Allow people to experience who you truly are. I mean, there's enough fakeness in the world. So, I mean, there's enough fakeness in the world.
We don't need to add to that.
Yeah, we don't need to add that. We need some authenticity. We need some realness. And I truly believe that Tracy and I was talking earlier about transferable skills. I believe that transferable skills is one of the most slept on skills, but I also think there is this dire need in the world for authenticity. It's not about, oh, I'm going to be suit, tie, button up. It's not about being politically correct. It's truly about really being authentic, and authentic don't mean you have to go around cursing. Like, you could, like Tracy said, be kind. Like, be kind. That is so simple, So it's really just one of those things to where I'm so excited that you were saying these things because the world needs this. When you look at all different social media sites, you see people trying to be something that they're not. You see competition and comparison on a rise. You see how that affects someone's anxiety because they don't know where they fit in at social media reels and things like that. When in reality, just be yourself. Just be who you were created and crowned to be. I'm going to get off my high horse because this is not my interview. This is yours. So,
and there's two things I'd actually love to share on that too, because if you think about being the CEO of your personal brand, which I totally agree with, if you don't share your voice, it's no one else's responsibility to.
Ooh.
Right? And so, like, again, sometimes we think that there's just all these opportunities to share our voice. And when you're looking for them, you can find them, but nobody is going to come and get your story, right? Like, there's 8 billion stories. It's beyond comprehension, right? People can't do that. You need to be the one who's going to stand up and share your voice. Otherwise, you will be the one in the corner being silent, and all of your goodness just disappears. And I'm like, oh, I don't even like that concept, right? Like, I don't believe in your goodness disappearing. It just should, everybody should know it, right? Like, it's the quote about how our biggest fear is about letting our own light shine, right? Like, we are afraid that we are powerful beyond measure because we can be, but we can't be if we don't take that ownership of our personal brand and share that story. It just, I just want you guys to do it. And if you're looking, seriously, follow me on LinkedIn, connect with me, because like, if you're looking for a space to do this, come hang out with me.
We'll put your, when we post it on YouTube, we'll put your bio, but we'll also put your website and your LinkedIn so people could just automatically connect with you. And I love that you mentioned our deepest fear. Love that one. Love that. So I wanted to ask, how do you reign and rule in your life?
Well, you know, it's actually interesting because I believe that this, how we reign, how we rule, our personal brand, is a journey, and it's an evolution. And so one, I always like to share for people to give themselves the space for that to change over time. And something that someone shared with me the other day was that when they looked at the success of their life, if their career was more successful than their parenting, they looked at that as failure. And that was very interesting to me because I never thought about it before. And it's not that I don't like value my family. I clearly do, but I was like, that is actually a thing that shifted for me in the past week, is that when I look at, and I'm not like a rule with an iron fist type of gal. Hopefully you guys got that from earlier on in the conversation. But like, I want to make a difference. I want to make a difference in the world. I feel like I am called to do that. I feel like I have the confidence, I have the ability, I have the love and kindness and desire to create a better world. And that if I don't do that, the world is worse off because I didn't do that. And so my job is to do that. And my job is to do that at home first. And this was even like from the time I was pregnant with my son, all I wanted to do was for him to know that he can be him. I'm going to get emotional now, that he can be himself, and he doesn't have to be any given way for me to love him more. He doesn't have to be any given way to be accepted by society, that he can just be him. And this is the thing that like breaks my heart about the way society is right now, is that not every kid is going to get that. And I like, that is just, as far as I'm concerned, unacceptable, which is why when it comes to me standing for what I believe and standing for what I believe is fair and just for human experiences, I have to. I don't have an option. I personally can't. I would have given up on society, and I will fight for the good of society until the day that I die. And if that's what my son knows about my life, then I will have succeeded. And so I don't know if that specifically answered your question, but I need to take a tissue break.
No, you definitely did, because one of my, I've recently switched the mission, or the mission of my brand has evolved to teaching individuals how to live a crown life without competing, comparing, or compromising your calling. And a lot of times your home life is in shambles, but your corporate life is on point. And for me, especially as I was getting married, it was just like, if home is not taken care of, I don't want to do nothing else. So even before we go on the trip, I'm trying to clean up the entire house. And my husband's like, you need to go to sleep. And it's like, no, because I refuse to be on somebody's plane and on somebody's beach when my home is out of order. Like, home is more than just a place. It's a sanctuary. It's a place where the foundation is built. And if that's messy, it can cause everything on top of that foundation to shift. It may seem like it's going good, but when your third floor is now on your first floor and you looking crazy because you didn't had a shift, that's problematic to me. And having that evolution of a mindset, it has taught me to slow down more because I'm not in a rush of trying to build my career and build my brand, and things like that. Right now, it's home is being built. I have career being built. I have marriage being built. I have brand being built. And all of them are being built at a steady pace. So I rather get to the end of my life and all of those homes becomes this beautiful neighborhood than to get to my life, the end of my life, and I have a mansion over here and a shack over here because I spread it myself too far in one direction instead of just being whole in all aspects. So I'd rather go slow and be whole towards the end than to haste. And in that hasting, I have an area that I'm struggling with. And it's crazy that you mentioned that because in my journal, it was a scripture in Proverbs. It was Proverbs 19:2. Enthusiasm without knowledge is no good. Haste makes mistakes. That's what I wrote down. It was either yesterday or today. It was yesterday, back of the page. But when you think about that in the totality of your life, be knowledgeable, use wisdom, be kind, and you can go at the pace of grace and still get to your destination without having to compromise your journey.
Well, and one of the things that I love most about that is almost always when we hasten to do something, it's because we think someone else expects us to do it. I would challenge you guys to think about that. What are the things that you rushed to do? Rushed to the doctor's office because I didn't want to be 5 minutes late because they'll think that I'm an irresponsible parent. If you have any kids and you're 5 minutes late, like people should just expect you to be late. But we often hasten when we're trying to accomplish something just to get it done. But then we really should ask the question, why are we trying to get that done? It's been really interesting for me because historically I like a tidy house as well. And I used to be like, I would clean the kitchen every night and we would cook and I would do all the dishes and the kitchen would be clean. I don't do that anymore. And like one of the things I wanted to show you guys in this comparison is that like there is no one formula for success. This is also determined based on your personal brand, right? So like now I tell myself like I don't have to do the dishes every night, and it doesn't make me a not good mother or not good wife or not useful human, right? Like it just means I didn't do the dishes today. And we as humans love to add additional meaning to things, but what it means about us when we do or don't do a thing. And so, yeah, maybe I like hasten to make sure that I get all this stuff done, but then I'm just exhausted and I don't have time to play with my son. And I want to build a relationship with my son. It's one of the greatest gifts that COVID has given me is more time at home with my son. And I would be a fool to give that away because I remember what it was like when I was trading that every day. I took him to daycare. That was just what you do, right? Like, and then it got to the point where I couldn't do that. And I got a glimpse into what was better for me. And now I get to make that choice. I get to make that choice to do, and that's better for me than doing the dishes. And eventually the dishes get done, right? Like eventually they're stacked up so high or we keep using the same pan and you're like, okay, I really need to clean these. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything about you. And again, like when you really own your personal brand, that's when those things don't mean anything about the person that you are, right? Like it's just a thing. And you are worth it regardless. So remember that.
Thank you for bringing the fire. Thank you for dropping the jewels. Thank you for your yes. Like, this was so amazing. This was
I'm
so
so happy to be here. And like, seriously, you guys, I will be respectful of your time, but I could talk about this forever. And I would love to, anybody who is intrigued or inspired by the conversation today, please connect with me. My links will be there. I would love to connect with you. I would love to know your story. And I want to, seriously, you guys, I have been known for people to have a 20-minute discovery call with me and feel completely differently about their personal brand after. Because my job, again, as far as I'm concerned, is to make you more excited about your personal brand than I am. But usually I start out more excited about your personal brand than you do. So
yeah.
we start out about that. But this is what I want everybody. I want everybody. I want everybody to have. I want you to love your brand and just share it with the world unashamedly.
Ooh, we're gonna end on that note, y'all.